So,
Hi.
here we are. As you probably know, we've been travelling on this trip for about 15 or 16 months. We did 2 shorter trips before this, 6 weeks in 2017 and about 3 months in 2019. We're in different parts of Australia. And then we left Adelaide in February 2020, and it's now May 2021. So we just thought it might be helpful to share some questions that people have asked us, and some questions that we would have liked to have known before we started, in case you're interested in that sort of thing. So, do you want to start?
Sure.
First question. These are questions that that we've heard from other people. Questions people have asked us. What do you like most about road tripping?
Oh, seeing all the different spots, particularly making sure we get near water somewhere. That's what I like about travelling. Just different experiences and time together.
Yeah, I reckon the time together is probably the big thing. Time to get the readings done, and it's really the family time together. The travel sort of keeps it interesting because you're going from place to place every few days or however often you decide to move on, and that keeps it interesting. And you're seeing different places and different experiences and things, but you're sharing all those experiences together. And you've got plenty of time in the car while you're talking or listening to stories together or doing the readings together. And it's really that the road trip facilitates having all that family time together. Like, you could potentially have the family time together if you weren't travelling, but you tend to be home and doing different things, and you get caught up in the busyness of life. So for me, the good thing about road tripping is that you are sort of away from all of that busyness, and you have time to spend a lot of time together with your family and seeing lots of really cool and interesting things on the way. Okay, next question. How long do you stay in each place?
Depends how much we like it and how much time we have.
It's pretty
Probably.
much an open schedule, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, you tend to have certain points you want to get to by a certain time. So when we started in February, we were intending this, of course, February 2020, before COVID was a thing.
Yeah.
We were intending to get to a Bible school in Stanthorpe, which was over the Easter weekend. So we intended from Adelaide to go from Adelaide to Victoria through New South Wales and get to Stanthorpe, which is just on the Queensland border side of the New South Wales-Queensland border. We'd intended to get to there by Easter.
Yeah.
And then the intent was to sort of cover the top end of Australia through the dry season, so probably from April, May through to August or September. So you sort of tend to have very broad milestones, I suppose. But then when you're at individual spots, you just spend as long as you like. If there's a spot like this, we're at Manning Gorge here in Kimberley, and this is a beautiful spot. So we intended to stay here for a night. We're going to stay for 3 now. Other times you stay somewhere and it's very much a one-nighter, and you're happy to not go back there.
Yeah.
How do you find campsites? How do you find places to camp?
Wiki camps.
And what's wiki camps, for those who don't know?
App on your phone.
Probably the most useful app we've used.
Yes.
Probably that and Film
It's
App,
not
but
free, but it's worth the $5 or $8 or.
I reckon it might be more than that now. But when we got it, it was $8, which was a one-off cost.
Fee, and it just lets you know all the necessary camp points, water points.
Yeah, so campgrounds, day use areas, points of
Yes,
interest,
points of interest.
and you can filter them in all sorts of things. That's probably what makes it really useful. You can filter them, like you can filter to see only sites that have got Telstra reception, or only sites that have got that are free, or only sites that allow dogs or whatever it might be. So you can sort of filter sites on so many different criteria, and so that's probably what we've used most of the time.
Yeah, some of the time we have just used the satellite to find a little sneaky track, and make sure that it's not somebody's property and all those sorts of things.
Yeah,
The
so
satellite certainly has helped with that.
because normally what we would do, and we probably only started doing that towards the second half of this trip, what we'd normally do, we'd be driving along. If you're looking for somewhere to stop, and you just keep a bit of an eye out for tracks going to the bush, and I think like when we stayed at South Mossman, which was just north of Port Douglas, we found a spot there that was a really nice spot, which we just happened to see. Let's just go and see what's down that track. It looks like the sort of place that might have something down there. But probably, the second half of this trip, I suppose, we've started, when necessary, we've just open up Google Maps and switch to satellite view, and that way you can see where the tracks are and where they lead to. So sometimes you might see a track that just goes to somebody's house, other times it's a track that leads to a clearing. And so that's been really useful, because not everything's on wiki camps, and there might be things that are not even perhaps official campgrounds, but they're spots that we can go into. Don't leave a mess, don't leave any trace that you've been there, and respect people's property. And the satellite maps were really useful for that. There were some times just north of Perth when we was up near, it wasn't as far as Lanson, but even Lanson as well. We found we used that a few times to find some camp spots when we couldn't find anything on wiki camps. So so if you're planning on doing road tripping, make sure you get wiki camps. Do you need to travel for a year to make it worthwhile? No. Absolutely not.
You can see so much in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But it just means that you won't get as much time in those spots.
Yeah, I think it's... Yeah, go on.
This one?
Yeah. I think it's probably more important to do something than to do nothing. Like, on our first trip, we only had 6 weeks, where we went from Adelaide, across the Hay Plain to Narrandera, up to Bathurst, Orange, up to Stanthorpe, Brisbane, Gladstone, Rockhampton, Longreach, Mount Isa, Three Ways, and then down Alice Springs, Ayers Rock, Kibapiti, and back to Adelaide in 6 weeks. So that was a quick trip, but we've still got, even though we've done so much more since then, we've still got some great memories of that time we had. So even if you only had like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month or 6 weeks or whatever, you can see so much in that time. Even in the time we've had, probably together, we've probably travelled for about, it would have been nearly 2 years in total. There's so much we haven't seen in that time. So you're never going to see everything, but if you get out and do some stuff, you're going to build great family memories together. You're going to have times that you enjoy together, regardless of really how long you go for. Obviously, if you can go for longer, you're going to see more stuff. You've got more time together. That's obvious. But if you're not in a situation where you can do that, then even if you could only go for a short time, you'll still really enjoy it. Favourite spots? We've got top 5 favourite spots pretty much, which would be... do you want to tell them?
I didn't know whether to say it now or... Sorry, we can cut this video out.
No, we put it in.
Just say this now or when we get back, that's all.
Well, no, I think we say that.
What was your top 5? Oh, you've already heard it.
But they may not see it. Well, rock, paper, scissors. Okay, how about we compromise and say, what sort of things do we look for when we choose it? What sort of things, what are the features of our favourite spots? Like, what are the characteristics of spots which we would really like? So, for example...
Water.
Yes. Fresh water, fresh running water.
Yeah.
Terrestrial signal.
Yeah.
Preferably near a town that's got a dump point, so you can empty the toilet and refill water tanks.
And get more
Free.
food.
Free.
Something that's free.
And where you can buy food. And Cohen, which is one of those spots which we're not going to say what they were. Cohen was one of those. That was about halfway up Cape York Peninsula. That was about 5 minutes out of the town of Cohen. Cohen town had a general store, 2 general stores, 2 petrol stations.
Yeah.
And the free camp was about 5 minutes out of town near a river, which you probably, if you followed what we've been doing, you would have seen. That was when we shot the Castaways video with the kids on the island. So that was a really nice spot. So we ended up staying there for about a week because it had everything we needed. There are other spots as well which we're not allowed to talk about. But that's the sort of thing that for us anyway, I mean it's different for different people, but for us we really like spots that are
when we're more on our own.
Water, I'm just going to make sure this is still filming because it'd be so annoying if Oh yeah, it is. Yep. That's good. We still see everyone as well. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's probably something like this as well.
Yeah.
This isn't free, and we don't have Telstra signal here, so we don't have internet, which is a bit of a pain. It works out probably about $50 a night. But you've got water and drinkable water. That's a good thing about camping by fresh water, especially some of the places like Cohen, the water was drinkable. I mean, you're probably not supposed to drink it, but you can drink it, you can boil it if you have to, which means you can do washing, you can use it for, a bit like at Glenlock, you'd use river water for swimming in, showering in.
This water is a bit nicer than that.
Oh, yeah, totally. But like at Glenlock, you can use it for that. You can use it for doing your dishes in. You're not going to drink Glenlock river water.
Yeah,
As in, if you don't know where Glenlock is, that's on the Murray River up near Waikerie. But like when you've got fresh water, you can do so much more stuff, and which then means your drinking water in your tanks lasts a lot longer.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the Pilbara and the Kimberley? Well, they're two different regions in Western Australia. The Kimberley is the top part of WA, so where it joins onto the Northern Territory border, the very top section is the Kimberley. The Pilbara is the next section down.
In Western Australia.
Yeah. So I think there's about 8 different regions. There's the Gascoyne, the Wheat Belt, Southwest, the Peel, Perth. There's probably other ones I can't remember what they all are. But anyway, the Pilbara and the Kimberley are the top 2 geographically. But in terms of the difference between them, the Pilbara has got lots. The dirt is a lot redder.
A lot more intensely red.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the iron ore mining operations happen. So here and there's ore trades that run up and down from the Pilbara area up to Port Hedland, where they take a lot of the ore off to China. So the weather is probably pretty similar. It's probably up in the Kimberley, which is where we are now. It's a little bit more, probably slightly more tropical. You've got more palm trees, a bit like you're heading up towards Darwin. So if you've been up from Adelaide to Darwin, when you get up to like around Adelaide River, Madaraka, you start seeing Catherine, yeah, you start getting more palm trees, and it's more like that in the Kimberley. And the earth is not as red. It's a little bit. I don't know, you probably can't see much here, but I can see it over here. But anyway, so it's not as intensely red as the Pilbara. So it's a different sort of look. With the Pilbara, of course, because you've got those really intense red colours in the gorges, you get this beautiful contrast between the red gorges, the blue sky, the green trees, and then the water. And that's what really makes that region probably one of my favourites, I reckon, because it's just such a contrast of really saturated colours. Not quite so much up here, but this is really beautiful otherwise. You can still swim in both areas. Probably not as many crocs in the Pilbara as the Kimberley, but where we've been, on the Gibb River Road, there haven't been any crocs either. So in that sense, it doesn't matter. Things you'd really want to make sure you take with you, or things that are probably we're really glad we took with us.
Yeah. So one of them is this, which is a bit
Look like a spaceship.
dinged up now, but a soda water.
Well, it's called a soda kick. It's like a soda stream.
Yes,
Do you want to grab the bottle of water? It's like a soda stream, so you can just put normal tap water in, refrigerate it, and put that onto the machine, and it's got a carbon dioxide canister in there that you can fizz up the water to make your own fizzy water, which means you can have your carbonated soft drinks without, like, you just use that and then add a bit of cordial into it, or juice or whatever you want to add, but we normally just add a bit of cordial. And it means you can have fizzy drinks on the road rather than having to buy 1.25 litre or 2 litre bottles of whatever drink you might. It's a lot cheaper doing it that way. Probably not way cheaper, because the canisters are $20 to change over. Yeah. And you're supposed to be able to fizz about 60 litres worth of water.
Yeah.
So it's not so much the economics, although it is still cheaper. But it just is a lot more convenient because you don't have to be carrying all these bottles of water. We've got 3 of those clear bottles of water, and we just fill them up from the water tanks, rather than having to then we go to the shops and buy pre-made soft drinks.
Yeah.
So that's been really useful. The vacuum cleaner.
Another really useful thing is this.
That's actually the third one we've had. We haven't had a great run with them actually, because 2 of them have died. This one seems to have done all right. But when it's been working, it's been really, really good. Yeah. And this is by the way, because we've got carpet in the caravan. Most caravans don't have carpet in them, and we put a bit of carpet in before we left. And that's probably another thing that's really useful, because it means that the dirt. We tried it without it. Yeah. With our last van, when the carpet got wet and we pulled it up, and as soon as you get any dirt on the liner, you feel it straight away, and if you're not gritty on your feet, With carpet, it sort of holds the dirt a bit more, so it's easy to hop into bed and with clean feet, and then we just run that vacuum cleaner over it once a day or two, and it's got enough power in that to be able to do the whole van.
Yeah, and also it's helpful doing the car.
Yeah.
Too,
that welding powder as well. This is really, really useful to have. This basically like a tube of super glue. That's what it is. It's a bottle of super glue, and it's got this other powder you can use for basically doing plastic, or not just plastic, but all sorts of welding. So you put the super glue on, and you put some of the powder on there, and it basically sets instantly and makes a really strong bond to the other surfaces. So it's good for all sorts of things, and some of the stuff breaks when you're travelling, particularly when you're going over rough roads. Just bits of plastic trim, and they can be annoying things to try to replace. Oh,
yeah,
well,
annoying things at the moment have been
these
thongs for the boys. Both pairs have broken there, but they've just been used heaps, but it's been useful to glue them back together.
Yeah, and I only used the glue. I didn't use any of the welding powder.
Yeah,
That's more for things which are solid. But just like if you got something on like a bit of aluminium, cast aluminium that's broken, that was just on the glue. I might have used a bit of welding powder on that too. It's just a really, really useful adhesive. It's pretty expensive. It's like $35 or $40 for that, which is pretty pricey. But the amount that we've used, we'll probably tend to get 6 months or so. I think we bought our last pack in Weeper, which would have been August last year, and we bought this one, so maybe more than 6 months. Depends how much you use it, obviously, but it does go a while. Like it's 10 mils per bottle, so they do last quite a while, and it just works so well. The number of things we've fixed with that, it would have paid for itself multiple times over if it saves you. If you crack something like an alternator bracket or something like that, and you can fix it up with that, and it saves you spending $200 on a new alternator, well, $40 on the glue is pretty material. Something else that's been really useful has been the selfie in the car. So probably you can see you might not be able to see it. There's an antenna on the front of the car. You've probably seen it in other videos. That's a mobile phone signal booster. So if there's only a really marginal amount of Telstra signal around, you can turn the booster on, and that will then amplify the signal, so you're still able to get usable signal. There's then another antenna so basically the mobile phone connects to an internal antenna, which goes to an amplifier, and then the signal goes out on the booster, on the external antenna. And that has been really useful in spots where the signal's been marginal. We've been able to get work done, and obviously if you've got an online business like I do, you need to have a decent internet connection to be able to do your work.
And the kids' schooling has been online this term at least.
Yeah, so that's been really useful. I've brought heaps and heaps of tools, and there's probably loads of stuff you could say that's really useful to take. I've had a pretty decent toolkit with me. That's been really useful. Like just before we started this video, Jude glued his finger together with some of that welding powder glue, like the super glue part of it. And I had a bottle of acetone in one of the toolboxes. We've got acetone, turpentine, methylated spirits, araldite, silicon, contact glue, and all the normal tools, spanner sets, cordless drill. Cordless drill's been really useful. We've broken, as you probably know, two springs.
Grinder.
The angle grinder, so that's probably something that's really useful as well, having a battery-powered angle grinder, because if you've got to cut through some metal, the only alternative is the hacksaw, and I've used that in the past. But so
when you break a leaf spring, an angle grinder is the thing that you need, not a hacksaw.
And probably an inverter as well. We found the inverter has been really useful, which is, if you don't know what an inverter is, it means you've got 12-volt batteries in the caravan. It's a device that converts that to 240 volts AC, so you can run other things off it that only run on 240 volts. So if you're, for example, charging the vacuum cleaner, we've got this great little vacuum cleaner we talked about before, but that comes with a 240 volt plug pack, so you can't recharge it unless you've got 240 volts. If you don't have an inverter, there's no way you can charge it up. So things like that. There's not all that many things, like the laptops still need 240 volts to charge. They won't charge off USB. A few other things, probably most of it actually. Obviously mobile phones you can charge off that as well. A couple of other things, but it's really useful to have that as well. It just gives you that extra flexibility. Any other tips and tricks? We actually talked about some of these things already. One thing I was going to say, which is something we haven't done, it would be useful to have, if you've got two mobile phones, have one on Telstra and one on Optus. As we're both on Telstra, but there have been a few spots where there's only Optus coverage, which is surprising because you'd expect Telstra would be everywhere. Telstra is on most of the main roads, but for example, coming here on the Gib, there's Telstra signal all around the Victoria Highway, which is the sealed road that goes from Kununurra around to Derby. But and some of the spots along, some of the communities along the way, they've only got Optus coverage. So, and Imagery
Along the
community, yeah, they only had Optus coverage. We found the same at Kings Canyon. They only had Optus coverage there. And there's been a few spots that are like that.
Yeah, which is would have been useful to have both.
Yeah.
Especially when we ran out of money on our credit card or something like that, to be able to transfer it over.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah. So just gives a bit more flexibility. Where do you store all your stuff? Well, we've got a video on that, so we'll probably put a link if you haven't seen that already. But we've got a video on the channel already showing where we store all the stuff in our caravan.
It's too much stuff, actually.
Yeah. What are you looking forward to about getting home, and will you miss travelling when you stop?
Yes, we will miss travelling. Yep.
And yes, you're looking forward to getting home?
Yes.
So what are you looking forward to most about getting home?
It's funny. They're just funny little things, like having a flushing toilet, a washing machine, a running sink. Although we have got running sink, it just doesn't run out.
As in, this one does run out, but you don't have to worry about that at home. Yeah.
A nice soft bed.
Not having to climb over the other person to get into bed.
Yes. Yeah.
A dishwasher, I hear from inside. The kids have done a really good job with washing the dishes.
Yes. They've been champions.
Yeah. Not having to empty a porta potty or a chemical toilet every few days.
Yes.
Having space, but at the same time, that's probably a two-edged sword, because when you don't have a lot of space like here, like we've got enough space in the van, but you're all in the same space and you get to spend a lot of time together. Like you hear everyone else's conversations and you're involved with each other's lives much more closely. When you're in the car, you're all, I think we talked about this before, you're all in the same space, you all have the same sort of discussions and you share stuff. And that's nice to have all that closeness. And we found that in between our trips when we've gone home, you very quickly lose that, because people go off to, someone's over here sitting on a sofa, Beck's sitting on a sofa reading a book, Matt's over here playing with cars, Mim's over here in the kitchen making stuff at work or out in the shed, and you're not all together anymore, which is obviously that's what normal life is like, but you don't have that on the road. At the same time, that's also one of the disadvantages, because if you want to have a private conversation, it's a bit hard to do that. If you've had an argument, disagreement, and you just need a bit of space to get over it, well, it's a little bit harder to kind of just go to another room and come back inside in 10 minutes time when you've watered the garden or something like that. But it's hard to do that sort of thing. So there's pros and cons to that. It
does mean, though, that you do have to sort through things.
Yeah.
You can't just sort of walk away as easily.
Yeah.
Not that you should do that anyway. But
No, but sometimes you might sort something out, and then you've actually resolved the issue, but you just might need a little bit of space to get over it, or to cool down, or whatever it might be. And will you miss travelling when you stop? You said yes. What are you going to miss most about it?
All the different spots that you get to see. Probably just a bit more of a relaxed timetable.
That sounds weird to say relax when you're at home, when you're out here. I don't know about relaxed. Do you think relaxed?
This is a relaxed timetable.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I thought you were saying it's going to be relaxed when we get home.
No, not necessarily. No, it's a lot busier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's relaxed timetable here. And when you're on the road, generally speaking, apart from when you're wanting to get somewhere by a certain time, then it can be fairly on the move early mornings or late nights.
But that doesn't happen very often.
No, thank
Most of the time it's pretty chilled.
Yeah.
I think that's everything. I don't hear. There was something else I just crossed my mind when we were talking, but it's gone again. So, anyway, that'll probably do for now. If there's anything that we've missed, because we probably have missed stuff, if there's anything that you think you'd like to know, let us know, because we might do another one if there's enough questions, or if we think of other stuff as well, which is quite possible. We'll probably find as soon as we stop, we'll think of stuff. Let us know, because it's not all that often we're in a situation like this to be able to know from experience, this works, this doesn't work, what would we really like to change or do differently, or whatever it might be. So if you've got any questions about, or you're thinking about doing some travelling, or you're not thinking about it but you're just curious about what it would have been like, or what it would be like if you ever got around to it, but you're not sure about how this worked, well, let us know, and we'll see if we can answer it. All good?
Yep.
Okay. See you later.
Bye.